Hello everyone and welcome back to Ancient Nagash channel dedicated to Sigmar, and in this video we're going to be talking about the Wrath of the Everchosen, which is a new Age of Sigmar book that has came out as part of a Soul Wars series and the first of a sort of a narrative a rules book that we've seen for a little while, and the first one we've properly seen for 2nd edition Age of Sigmar. So what I want to talk about in this video really is this is basically a summary of what I think of the book and essentially should you buy it or not. So firstly I want to start with the lore. Now I haven't been able to read all the lore in this book because obviously I haven't had time to be able to do such a thing. However, from the lore that I have read so far, I am really liking it, because to be honest with you guys, like I've probably said this before, I'm severely dyslexic. So I really do despise reading and I try and avoid it like the plague, literally. So I'm not a big fan of buying the battle tomes and reading through all the pages. It's just not my thing. I just don't enjoy it. However, with this book, since reading the lore, like I said, I haven't read all of it, but I've read a few pages and I'm sort of a little bit hooked to it. And that's the first time that sort of really happened to me. I think the last time I sort of got really hooked into reading a lore for a battle tome was obviously Legions of Nagash, but probably the first Ironjawz battle tome, which was just full of fun. This one takes a different turn though, so this isn't really humorous. This is essentially Nagash versus Chaos. This is Death versus Chaos. This is Mortarch, Catacross and Lady Olinda Mortarch of Grief against Archaon in an attempt to take the 8 points, which is Archaon's stronghold in the mortal realms. It's that, remember that bit that links all the realms together? It's essentially like this island that has realm gates to every single realm. So if you take this is, you know, like the central station on a sort of like a subway system or something. You know, there's so many different places you can get to, and that is why Archaon has it as his strategic stronghold after he managed to capture it. So what this book essentially does is describes Death's invasion into the 8 points, and how Nagash, the Lord of Undeath, and his generals, Catacross, the Mortarch of the Necropolis, if that is pronounced correctly, and Lady Olinda Mortarch of Grief are going to be invading the 8 points themselves with their relevant armies to take it from Archaon. So it firstly details lore about Catacross and also Lady Olinda, and like I say, Bone Reapers and Nighthorn. It does that. Obviously you can find more lore for those armies in their respective battle tomes. However, in this it talks about it more from a siege point of view. You know, like Chaos is on the defense and, you know, Death is on the offensive, which is really quite different. If you looked a little bit like, you know, at the Age of Chaos, it was the complete opposite. And it's weird to see that Chaos, you know, this evil force and armies that really do sort of specify on, well, it's not ethnic cleansing if you just kill everyone, you know, mass genocide, all that sort of thing. You know, things from Nightmares are fighting against the dead, you know, and you know, both those sort of aspects, you know, they're real. You know, like an army of Chaos would, you know, chill me to the bones, the same as, you know, like the forces of Death would as well. And that is what I find great about the narrative in this book. It's not your typical good guys versus bad guys like the Stormcast versus Slays the Darkness, that sort of thing. They haven't gone for that. What they've gone for is Chaos, who I say is definitely evil, a little bit grey, nothing so black and white is there, especially on Warhammer. And then Death, which obviously I don't see as being completely bad. I think Nagash is a bad guy. Honestly, you go down to the pub with him, he's not too bad at all. And actually the only one of the whole Mortal Realms that stands a chance of wiping out Chaos through wiping out all will in the Mortal Realms, or emotion, that sort of thing. But to the ordinary player, essentially, you know, there are no good guys in this war. It's one evil force trying to fight another evil force from like a sort of outside perspective point of view, I suppose. And what I love about this is it really details the battles that are being fought between you know, Death and Chaos. And there's a particular one that I've read a bit about so far, because like I said, I haven't read all of it, but one that I've read a bit of is when the forces of Death first come through the realm gate into the 8 points from Shaiish, and there's a stronghold there that is defending the 8 points from incoming invaders, and I think it's called Kahite or something like that. It's defended by the Slaves of Darkness, and essentially the Slaves of Darkness look out on from their battlements and see the realm gate into Shaiish, and see fellow, you know, like Slaves of Darkness coming towards their fortress, and they're thinking, why are they coming towards us? Because these Slaves of Darkness were actually defending the fortress on the other side of the Realm Gate, which was in the Realm of Death. And suddenly the Slaves of Darkness from within the 8 points are looking down at them and going, why are they, why have they abandoned their posts and coming towards us? And then these Slaves of Darkness start walking into things like landmines, or like chaos variants of landmines, like booby traps, all that sort of thing, spike pits with no emotion at all. And then it becomes clear to the Slaves of Darkness defending Kahite that these aren't our, brothers in arms, our comrades. These are resurrected corpses of them. And then that is how the battle begins. And in fact, I'm actually going to have a game tonight where we're going to reenact this, and I'm going to have some Slaves of Darkness and mix up their rules a little bit so they're more zombified against my friends' Chaos Army defending this fortress. And then after the my zombified Slaves of Darkness die, then the legions of Nagash will start coming in, as happened in the narrative. And that's a little bit about the narrative. Like I say, I don't want to, let's say how things end and all that sort of thing, so I don't want to give anything away. But for me personally, I am enjoying the narrative, and there are also battle plans to represent those battles in the book. And it's sort of done not exactly like a campaign system where you build up armies and stuff, but there is a linear storyline you can follow, and that's something me and my gaming buddy are going to be doing. Like I said, we're starting tonight, and it'd just be a great break because we're so used to doing match play. It'd be nice to do something a bit more narrative. We are using points, and that's how we think the best way to play narrative is go by the story, but do use points, and then it gives you a sense of balance, if anything else. So yeah, that's what I really like about it. And then talking about that sort of battle plan there, where it's a siege onto a Chaos Fortress, there are siege rules in here. There are ways to essentially... There's like a like when you go into deployment, for example, in the game, it's sort of... You look at it as like pre-game strategies, where you're deploying your things. The game hasn't even started yet, but even where you're deploying stuff, there's a lot of strategy in that. This brings it to a whole new level, because when you're doing a siege, there are strategies you employ about how you're going to besiege your enemy. You could try and starve them to death. You can try and dig tunnels underneath. Lots of different types of things. And you've got to try and counter out your opponent. So it just brings another element, another phase into the strategy, which I really like. There's also things like Roman monsters you can have throughout your battles, like monsters that don't belong to your enemy or yourself. They sort of attack neutrally, but they do pick their targets depending on certain dice rolls. And... that's cool. There are also chaos monsters though, I will tell you that, because this is set in the 8 points. Essentially, no one's brought these monsters to the battlefield. These monsters or creatures were just trying to sleep in their cave or that sort of thing, or out sort of like preying. I don't mean preying as in like going to church, but preying on like their prey as hunters, predators, that sort of thing. And then they've came across this battle, and then they've decided to start eating some of the participants of this battle. So that's cool. They also have ender spells that essentially are there for the same reason. Chaos is very manic, obviously, in the 8 points, and that does affect the ender spells there. So they appear, they do damage. They're not like as normal as like, here's an ender spell, it can do what it normally does. It depends on certain dice rolls, as like I said, the monster do. So that's really the sort of narrative part of this book. And I want to talk about the narrative part, because I think that's the part I'm personally most interested in. That's why I want to talk about it first. Because it really will give flexibility to your games, in the sense of just giving you just a bit more to play with, just breaking things up a little bit. If you just like competitive play all the time, that's absolutely fine. You're probably not really going to be interested in the sort of narrative side, because I'll be honest, like siege rules, like Roman monsters, like Roman and the spells, that sort of thing, and the battle plans, I doubt are going to be implemented at tournaments, and then particularly in most match play tournaments. They're not really going to be used. They're sort of more narrative driven. In my personal opinion, that's what I think it's going to be like. I can't say for certain, but that's what I think it's going to be like. But if you are someone who wants to just add a little bit more flavour to your games, try something out, do a little bit of a campaign, that sort of thing. Like I said, there's no massive campaign system in here, but there's a story you could follow, and the story from the battle plans really represent well in the lore that you read before the battle plans, which, for example, when I normally have a match play game, I'm like, well, I just need to capture more points to the enemy. That's how it works. Kill some enemy units in between, good fun. And it is good fun, jokes aside, but it is really good fun. That's why I love the game. But I have never really been so excited about where I'm fighting, what am I fighting for, like, what is the idea from the army. what are the stages of this battle going to be like? What's going to happen after this battle? How is it going to continue? And even if you lose, and like for example, like I said, when I have a game later, it'll be a case of me sieging my Chaos opponent's fortress. If I don't manage to win and they manage to hold on to the fortress, fine. Next time we have a game, the legions of Nagash, or any forces of Nagash really, have decided to start bringing some heavier equipment to try and take this fortress. A little bit like, like 40k when the Tyranids try and invade a planet. If they get repelled straight away, they go, okay, we just need to change strategy. And that is essentially what Death will be doing, trying to capture in this stronghold until eventually it does. And then we move on to the next battle plan, which is like the defenders of the stronghold have now fled through like something like a haunted forest, can't remember exactly, and Death are pursuing them. And when Death pursues them, it's like Nighthorn that's after them. I'll be honest, I don't really have much Nighthorn. I am slowly building up a Nighthorn army, but I don't really have too much, so I can't really use it tonight. What I am annoyed about, but for future times. And then you can, adapt it a little bit, like say, like the defenders run through this haunted forest being chased by Death, or you can have a little bit different. You can have interject a slight difference to the story there and go, the defenders gathered up enough forces to try and make a defense, a counter-offensive against what was holding the fortress by the forces of Death, to try and take it back and try and push Death out of the 8 points. Is it successful? Is it not? Depends on the game. So essentially what I'm trying to say is, by playing narrative, it doesn't matter too much who wins. I mean, obviously you want to win. Anyone who's... Well, I say anyway, most people who say they don't care if they win or lose, they're lying. It's as simple as that. But for me, in this case, it'll be like, obviously I want to win my games, but, as long as the story is driven forward in a cool way, I'll be happy. I'll be happy if I win, but I'll still be happy. So that is the sort of narrative side to it. And then moving on to what some of you probably want to hear about, the match-play stuff, so the allegiance abilities. Now, if I'm honest, I'm a little bit confused by these allegiance abilities, and I'll tell you for why. So a bit of a disclaimer, if you like. Now, when I've read them, essentially what you get are some sub-allegiances for your Chaos Army. But that's exactly it. What counts as a Chaos Army? I'll read you what it says. So it says, when you choose a Chaos Army, you must decide which Chaos faction your army will belong to. You can then give it a host of Chaos keyword from the following list. For example, if you have chosen the Khorne allegiance for your army, you can give it the Baleful Lords keyword. All Khorne units in your army gain that keyword, and you can use the allegiance abilities listed for that host of Chaos on the page indicated, in addition to the allegiance abilities they have for being a Khorne army. So a Baleful Lord is one of the hosts within this book, so one of those sub-allegiances you can give it. Now the problem I have is, what is a Khorne army? Is that everything in the army has the Khorne keyword? Or does it mean a Blaze Khorne army? Or does it mean a Slaves of Darkness army dedicated to Khorne? I don't know, in all honesty. In that case of things, maybe I'm being a bit dumb. Maybe you guys can tell from what I've read to you what it is. However, I don't know. I need clarification on that a little bit. To determine if let's say if you go Blaze of Khorne, if you get Blaze of Khorne, everything they have in their allegiance, everything, and then you get to pick an additional host as an ability on top. I personally believe that is the case. I believe it's a case of, let's say you're Slaves of Darkness, you're gone with that. Chances are, if you're considering buying this book, you got a Slaves of Darkness army. So you've gone Slaves of Darkness, you got those allegiance abilities, yep. But then instead of being the Despoilers or something like that, or Everchosen's, own like sub-allegiance, you pick a sub-allegiance from this book. That is my way of how I look at it. So, for example, if you are Hedonites of Slaanesh, it says, if you have chosen the Slaanesh allegiance for your army, you can give it a Godseeker's host, a Pretender's host, or an Invader's host army, the applicable keyword below. And then it says for Slaanesh, you've got Lured Hayes Invader's host, the Faultless Blades, the Pretender's host, the Scarlet Cavalcade, and the Godseeker's host. So from what I'm reading it, you get to pick a host there for Slaanesh. You don't get to be Godseekers from the Hedonites book and then pick one of the additional hosts from within this book. That's not how I look at it. But I'm a bit unsure because Slaanesh isn't a standard one there. It's got generic, command traits and artifacts to choose from. You have to pick one of those three hosts. So I'm not exactly too sure how this works. I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to lie to you. However, how I think it is the simplest place to put it. You go Slaves of Darkness allegiance, and then you'll say, I am going to be, let's look at one, I'm going to be the Flayed host instead of being Despoilers. That's how I look at it. Because when you go to, like, let's say the Flayed, which is a corn focused one, if you go to the Flayed, it gives you things like an ability for the army generally, which is like if it kills a hero or monster, it gets +1 to save. It gives your army a command ability. It gives them a command trait. It gives them an artifact power. So that's why I think these hosts work along the lines of Grand Courts, sort of like, you know, basically sub-allegiances. I can't remember what they're called, but you know, like conclaves, temples, that sort of thing. That's how I believe these work. So essentially, you can pick, you know, out of the Chaos armies, you know, bar Skaven, probably as far as I'm aware. You can pick basically any of those 4 gods and take their relevant allegiance abilities from the book, like Mad King and Nurgle, and then you can pick another, you know, a sub-allegiance from this book instead of one from that original battle tome. That's how I look at it. I don't know until there's an FAQ come out, so if you guys are thinking that, like, oh, well, it depends, you know, if I'm going to get the book, because I don't know if that works or not, that's completely that, you know. I can't tell you for certain how it's going to work, because in my honesty, I don't understand it. Maybe you guys will. I'll take a picture of the allegiance abilities as well, so they should be on the video for you at some point as well, so you can look at it and you can say that, you know, I'm just reading it like an idiot and it's really simple, but that's my personal opinion. So in that case, if that is the way, are they better than your standard, you know, hosts sub-allegiances you get from your normal Chaos books? In all honesty, I haven't read all the Chaos battle tomes to be able to tell you word for word if they are better. I just know it gives you some more flexibility and some more variety, particularly if you're sort of stuck for choice of how you want to build your army. In here, in these hosts, you may find the one for you. There are 2 new hosts for Khorne, 2 new hosts for Tzeentch, 4 new hosts for Nurgle, and I think 3 new hosts for Slaanesh. You have like one called Legion of Chaos Ascended, which is about Better Cause 1 as well, and you also are going to have like an allegiance for mixed demons, essentially, which I believe does work on its own allegiance. So it's not like I'm going to have the Tzeentch allegiance and then have the mixed demons one. It is slightly different with it. Is how I look at it. Of course, if you just say the standard host, if it's like well, if I'm the Flayed, which is the Khorne one, which I gave the example of, I picked that instead of being Blazed Khorne, then it's not worth it at all. So I don't think that is the case. I think you get it in addition. But you just wouldn't be able to pick like the Gore Tide. I imagine that's how it works in the Blazed Khorne book. So yeah, that's that. Some interesting things here. I'll be honest, like I said, I can't compare them to all the other ones in the books. I know there's definitely some good things here to go for. Like I said, the Flayed one. You know, in combat, if you kill heroes or monsters, you get +1 to save for that unit, which is great because Khorne hasn't got loads of ways to buff its save. It's got, you know, that prayer, but hasn't got loads. That's cool. The demon one allows you to be able to bring on additional demons into the battle. The Better Call one is cool because Better Call is an awesome character and has a pain in the arse ability if you fight against him. And it just lets you... How I would summarise these hosts. Some of them are more competitive than others. Are they the most competitive hosts, you know, allegiance you can go for? I'd probably say not, but I haven't done extensive research into them because obviously I haven't been able to read the book for too long. I just wanted to give you guys a bit of a heads up before tomorrow. But they just give you lots of flavour, is how I would describe it. They give you, you know, again, it leans towards a more narrative purpose maybe. But as an example, if you bought the Slaves of Darkness book and you weren't really happy with any of the sub-allegiances in there, you've got a whole bunch of new ones to choose from. And if you're like for example, me, I theme my Slaves of Darkness around Slaanesh. So it's like, I want them Slaves of Darkness, but I don't want the Hedonites of Slaanesh, but I want them to feel Slaanesh-y, but not completely. There are ones for you to choose from in here. You know, it just gives you that extra flavour, if you like. And it just, you know, it lets you theme your armies better. That's how I'm going to leave it for these. It's going to let you theme your armies better, in all honesty. That's the best way I could say it. So how would I sort of summarise this book? So I've been talking for, well, nearly 20 minutes now. I wanted this to be a summary. Like I say, I'm not going to go over every single part of this book, and I clearly haven't done that. That's not what this video is about. If you'd like me to do that, you can let me know, and I'll focus on those individual things. But coming back to the question of what this review is all about, should you buy this book Firstly, reasons not to buy it are if you do not really care about the narrative and you just want to play games, which is absolutely cool. That's not how I do it, but if you want to do it, that's fine. That's absolutely cool. You just want to play, competitive games, that sort of thing, match play, but you don't have a slave. Well, okay, if you don't have a chaos or a death army, I wouldn't buy this book. Even if you just wanted to play match play and no narrative, and you had death but not chaos, I wouldn't buy this book because death gets no additional allegiance abilities in here. It gets abilities if you're playing a siege battle and stuff, but that's not going to be in competitive tournaments as far as I can predict the future. If you want extra content for your match play, purely match play, no narrative involved, for preparing for tournaments, you're going to find nothing for death in here. And that also goes for, you're going to find nothing for order and nothing for destruction. If you just want to play those match play tournament ready games, I wouldn't get this book. However, if you are a chaos player, I would get this book. If you're, like say, you're asking me, and you're probably annoyed that I haven't really gone into it too much of, well, are all the hosts in here, are they better than the standard, sub-allegiance abilities you get from those books? Like I say, I don't know, I haven't played those armies enough. I'm not going to lie to you. But all I know is it just gives you more options to choose from. Surely that can't be a bad thing, can it? I've already picked a few in here I want to try out for my Sinesh Slaves of Darkness straight away. So that it's already given me reasons to why I bought this book. I mainly bought this book so I can tell you guys what it's about, but it's also going to be good use for me. And like at the narrative side, I love. That's the other thing to say about this. If you are a big narrative player and you have chaos or death, and you love narrative, get this book. Even if you want to try out narrative and you're really quite keen to do it, and you want to just add a bit more flavour to your games with like sieges and all that, and like random monsters and spells, do it. Get this book. The other thing to say with that is like you can say, well, I can just have random, Roman monsters. I don't have to pay £30 to do that, or how much this book cost. Can't remember, 25, 30, probably 30. That's true. You can implement your own rules, but it's a lot easier when they're already written and arguably play tested in this book for you. And and if you've got if you're lucky enough to be like with me and my gaming buddy, I've got some chaos, but I'm obviously Agent Nagash. I'm a death player. He's a permanent chaos player, particularly Khorne for the last, since he got into like 4 years. This book is made for us because then we can have these really narrative games against each other, and it's going to be fantastic. If you've got that going on, do it. If you've just sort of started, could be a fun thing for you and a mate to do. One of you collects death, one of you collect chaos. Go for that way. So to talk about, if you're sort of in the middle, if you like narrative, but you are a destruction or order player, because there's plenty of you out there, is this book worth it? I would say, again, but you like the narrative here. If you don't, like I say, if you're destruction or order and you just want match play competitive playness, waste the money. Don't buy the book. But if you like narrative, I would say it's worth it because you can just swap out. You can go, it's a destruction army invading a order kingdom, just like that, and then you just change the narrative, and then everything fits into place. You can do that. There are certain abilities for defenders and attackers of siege, and they have abilities not just if you're if you're destruction and you're a defender, you get this additional ability. It's if you're ogre mortrites, if you're gloom spites, if you're iron jaws, if you're I say iron jaws, I think like Oracle Warclans probably is. But if you're deaf, if you're flesh eater courts, Legions of the Gash, Nighthorn, Bone Reapers. Funny enough, the Bone Reapers sort of like wait for them to get plus to save with that. It's stupid. But then if you're order, you get your Stormcast, your Cities of Sigmar. It has different abilities from those, but that's just for narrative play. And like I say, when I keep mentioning the word narrative play, you could, if you want to play a siege game against a buddy of yours, or you want to make a tournament around it, you can do that absolutely fine. There's no reason why you can't do that match play. It won't be the most balanced, and particularly using these battle plans, in particular if you're comparing it to like a standard match play one like Border War, or shifting the objectives, something along those lines. It's not going to be a straightforward and clear cut. There's going to be more elements of sort of randomness to it, but you can certainly try to make it as balanced as you can and have a load of fun doing it and have a competitive twist. So in summary for you guys, that is my thoughts. So should you buy this book? If you love narrative, get this book. If you only like competitiveness and you've got a chaos army, I would get the book just to give you more to choose from. If you only like competitiveness and you do not have a chaos army, do not buy the book. That is my personal opinion for you. Okay, so that is my overall review of if you should buy the book or not. Like I said, there's lots to read for me still in this book. Like I've sort of got this book, you know, yesterday sort of evening, and then to be honest, I haven't had loads of time to be able to read this, unfortunately. But from what I have read, that is my view for you guys, for you today, before release day tomorrow. So hopefully it's just giving you a bit more to think about if you should buy the book or not, because, you know, it's I believe it's £30. So, you know, £30 is a lot of money. You know, you get another, essentially for this book, you could get another battle time, couldn't you? Of another army, you're thinking, which is absolutely true. But if you've already, like I say, you know, fallen in love with your Chaos Army, or you just want to mix up your games a little bit, chuck in some more narrative play, it's just going to give you more options. So that's my overall thoughts of this book. So I thank you very much for watching this. I thoroughly hope you've enjoyed it. And if you have, please like and subscribe and comment down below, as that all does massively help me, and it's absolutely free for you guys to do so. If you've got any questions, let me know down below, and I'll try and answer them for you guys as soon as possible. And I want to say a special thank you to my patrons as well, who do an awesome job for the channel and really do help me make the videos. They know who they are, and want to say a special thanks to them. Okay guys, so remember, until next time, Nagash is all, and all is one in Nagash.